we continue to follow President Biden's decision to drop out of the race, we want to bring in political analyst Steve Swatt. Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
I want to start off by asking you, this has obviously been a very historic weekend with President Biden choosing to drop out of the race and forego re-election. What will this mean for the Democratic Party, and is this a good decision?
Well, we won't know whether it's a good decision yet until we see some polling and see how the new nominee does nationwide. But this was inevitable, I think. And I think that it was only a matter of time because, you know, after the poor debate performance by President Biden and subsequent speeches and difficulties that he's had, he was just going downhill. He was losing in the polls in every swing state. Nationally, he was losing to former President Trump by 5 percentage points, and a Democrat has not lost the popular vote since 2004. So it was on a downhill spiral. I think it was inevitable.
And the election is just a few months away now. So what are things do you think that will be looking like moving forward?
Well, first of all, the Democrats have to decide who their nominee is going to be. It likely will be Kamala Harris. She has the endorsement of President Biden, and the Democrats seem to be coalescing around her candidacy. The Clintons came out today and said they endorse her. Adam Schiff, the soon-to-be U.S. Senator from California, endorsed her. Numbers of others have endorsed her. And so she will have a big decision first, who's going to be her vice presidential running mate, assuming she wins this. Now, all the delegates are freelancers now, so they're not tied to Biden or anybody else. Conceivably, a few other candidates could try to jump in the race, but it looks now that people are coalescing behind Kamala Harris.
And as you mentioned, Vice President Kamala Harris is going to have to figure out how things will look moving forward. Obviously, a lot of names have been thrown around for her potential running mate. What do you think will be some qualities or even some characteristics that will be important in that decision?
Well, some of it is crass politics. For example, do you think the American public is ready for two women on the ticket, president and vice president? Maybe the answer there is no. Do you think the public is ready for two minorities, being the presidential nominee and the vice presidential nominee? Perhaps the answer there is no. In that case, she probably will go for a white male and probably look for someone in a swing district. For example, Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is critical to the Democrats' chances. You know, maybe he would be picked. Mark Kelly of Arizona, former astronaut, Democratic senator. His name is being mentioned a lot. A number of others, including Roy Cooper, the governor of North Carolina. And so there are a lot of names out there, primarily Democratic governors who have done well in swing states or even in red states.
And this is something that we haven't seen quite often. A sitting president who has decided not to seek re-election. How do you think that this could shape the future for our nation?
Well, you know, we don't know that. And you talked about the history part of it. 1968 was the last time this happened. That's when Lyndon Johnson did very poorly in the New Hampshire primary and decided not to seek the nomination. So this is the first time since then that a sitting president has turned down his party's nomination. And so that's change right there. And so what we're going to look for in the next, few days and weeks, that early polling that comes out to find out if Kamala Harris seems to have what it takes to at least close the gap and to get some enthusiasm back. I mean, you got to remember that in the last several days, you had major Democratic donors from Hollywood, Silicon Valley, and elsewhere saying no more money if Biden is the pick. And so that will change. Money's already starting to come in to the Democrats. And so, and also, if Kamala Harris does in fact get the nomination, she will inherit the party's infrastructure, but also the money that is part of the campaign, the Biden-Harris campaign. She will inherit that also. So that gives her a pretty good head start.
Let's talk about the other side of things now. What is this going to be looking like for the Republican Party moving forward?
Well, they're going to take on California, and obviously, assuming Kamala Harris is the nominee, and they're going to make California really, the story. High taxes, runaway regulations, border problems, homelessness, crime. And they're going to blame Kamala Harris for all of that. You know that's going to happen. And so that's something that obviously that the Democratic ticket has to be prepared to answer.
And Steve, we want to get your final thoughts now. Anything else that you want to add to this conversation? A very historic weekend here.
Well, all I would say is that for weeks now, the Democrats have been in the doldrums. And they candidates running for office in Congress in California and elsewhere, running for the U.S. Senate, have seen a drag on a ticket, and they were worried about a total wipeout. I think they still are to some degree, but I think that Democrats should, if they come out of the convention with unity, should be energized, and we'll have to see how much that energy really works to see whether it can overcome what right now is a pretty big lead that former President Trump has.
A very important topic and a race we will continue to follow closely. Steve, I want to thank you so much for coming in studio to join us today and provide your thoughts. We really appreciate you coming by.
My pleasure.